How you doing? My name is Denny, and today I'm going to be doing a little job on my 2008 Smart Fortwo. Now, one of the things I noticed about this particular car is that the heater fan, within a few years, the heater fan began running intermittently, and sometimes I would have to pound on the dashboard or something to get it to go. Then miraculously, that situation cleared up, and it worked fine for a number of years. Now here I am in New England, and we've had a really cold winter. Not a lot of snow, but quite cold. So I really need that heater to run, and all of a sudden it just stopped. Now, from what I understand, this is quite a common problem with the Smart Fortwo, and it has to do with a buildup on the commutator. That's where the brushes, the motor brushes, connect with the inner armature of the motor. So you got to get that fan out of there. So in order to do it, I did look at a few videos online, and the videos were very helpful. Don't get me wrong, they're very helpful, but each one of them was missing a little piece of the puzzle that made this job possible for me. I had to go to several websites, ask a few questions of some of the video makers and stuff before I could finally get comfortable enough where I can get underneath the dashboard and start working on this fan. So to be honest with you, for clarity's sake, I have already removed the fan from the car, and I'm going to be putting it back in. So I'll show you the process, and we'll talk about how to remove the fan, etc. However, because I'm 64 years old this year, and a little bit on the hefty side, getting in underneath the dashboard of a Smart Fortwo is not the easiest thing in the world to do. So I did have to do a little extra work, and that would involve removing, as you can see, the driver's seat from the car. Why the driver's seat? Because that's the side the fan is located on. Okay, so here's my Smart Fortwo with the driver's seat removed. That allowed me to get in underneath the dashboard. And to remove the driver's seat, there are 4 bolts. These are Torx style bolts, right? And there's a small wiring harness which has little clips, and you have to depress the little things on the clips. There's little ends, and they're all like different, so it's a pain in the butt to figure out how each one of them works. But there's little clips that go underneath, and that's for all your seat belt stuff. This little clip here is a real pain because it's on the side, the yellow one. So anyway, get those things out of the way. It did give me a chance to get in here and vacuum underneath the seat though. So I'll show you where the fan is located. Oh, one other detail. You had to disconnect the seat belt from the seat, which requires a metric socket wrench. But underneath here, let's see if we can get a shot of it. Okay, what you're looking at now is the motor housing. It has that little silver spot at the top. That is the Torx screw, and right next to it is a little speck of green paint. So that's the fan motor. That's the whole unit you're going to take out. Now, the next picture will have an enlarged insert of the spot where you insert a screwdriver, and that is to release the wires, the power wires for the motor. The wires are very short. They're only about 1 inch long, so you don't have a lot of play. If you put a screwdriver in that slot where it's indicated on the insert, you should be able to remove the power wires just by pulling on the entire harness. Come on, focus. There we go. So there's a wiring harness and there's a plug. And again, that plug, wait a minute, that plug has a clip on it that you have to depress in order to release it. Other people say, and now on the flip side of this, there is a hole on this the wall of the car here. In order to get the fan out, some people did not say anything about a clip that releases the fan, but there definitely is a clip on the about 11 o'clock position of the blower motor housing that you have to pull back just slightly, and then you can turn the fan counterclockwise or to the left. You turn the fan, and that will release the fan. The fan goes in that hole that you can see just behind the wiring harness. So now the fan is mounted in a horizontal fashion, like so. This is, you're looking at the front end of the car, and it's approximately in this position. Let me back out so you can see it a little bit. So it's horizontally mounted, and this little bent piece right here, this piece right here is the clip that you just pull back on that a little bit to release it, and then you can rotate the whole housing will be rotated this way to the left, and it will disengage, and you just take the whole thing right out once you disconnect the wires. The wires was the fun part, because again, there's that clip that latches underneath that little lip right there that you can see. So if you can deal with all that, get that motor out of there, you can clean it up, and I'll show you how to do that in just a second. So here it is, removed from the car. This is the heating fan, air conditioning fan, from underneath the dashboard. And first of all, I notice it turns with a little difficulty. It's like it doesn't, you know, it's not really free spinning. I'm hoping what I'm going to find underneath here is the commutator on the motor is all gunked up. As if that's what it is, because that is a very common problem on the Smart Fortwo. Then all we got to do is clean it up, and that should resolve the fan problem. So this is the first time I see this. Remove this torque screw. I got a little torque set here. So I don't even know what size it is. Whatever that is, it fits. And let's see what's underneath here. I believe, just pull that out. Oh, it's kind of rubbery inside. Okay. All right, so that's the housing. Here's the fan. And as suspected, you can see, let's get a better pointer here. You can see the commutator is right here, this part back here, and it's all black. And the brushes on either side, there's brushes on either side of this. This commutator is crudded up big time. I'm gonna hand hold the camera here so I can show you a little better. Let's see. I cannot see that with this lighting. So yeah, you can see that it's totally black. That is supposed to be copper color right there. So I'm going to get in there and clean that up, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to try is a little bit of a rubbing alcohol on a Q-tip swab. Now I've got the thing, I got it mounted in a little clamp here, a bar clamp, and just to hold it up so you can see it a little better. So I'm going to put a little rubbing alcohol on the end of this Q-tip, and I'm just going to very gently rub on this commutator here. I don't know, yeah, you really can't see it with my fingers in the way. So I'm just going to try and get in here so you can see what I'm doing. There we go. About as good as you're going to get. I'm sorry about that. Now I can't see what I'm doing, but that's all right. Then you get in here and rub on it. And if the Q-tip comes out black, that means I'm getting some of the stuff off. And as you can see, it's black, man. All right, so a little alcohol on a Q-tip is one way to get that clean. And it's not as clean as I'd like it to be, but Cleaner than it was, because that thing is nasty, man. I need another Q-tip. Now I know they make some stuff, contact cleaner, that kind of stuff. If you do any kind of electronics work, you might have access to that, and that might be better than just plain old alcohol. But judging by the color of this alcohol, something's coming off of this thing. It's pretty good. All right, so we're just going to keep going with this a little bit and see how it looks. You got a better view than I do right now, but I can see some copper coming through, and that's really what you want. You want that copper to show. That's what's conducting the electricity. And I think the nice thing about the alcohol is that it doesn't really leave a residue. It dries up really well. You don't want anything that's, you don't want to put like soap or anything like that on this. Get another Q-tip. My alcohol's evaporating. I got it in a little bowl here. So just gonna keep going. I think I've been all the way around now. You see how that's going? However, I do have another idea that I'd really like to try that I think is going to be superior to what I'm doing right here. And we'll see what happens. The next thing I want to try, it involves a little bit of mechanical assistance. I'm going to use a piece, I got this piece of 400 grit sandpaper, and I fold it in half. First of all, I fold it in half just so I can get a good grip on it. Second of all, it gives me two sides to work with and two ends. And the other thing is, if you notice the fan, when you're looking at the fan, it has a shaft sticking out the end. So what I did is I took my cordless drill there and I attached it to the shaft. So now, let's see if I can get this in here where you can see. Now if I pull the trigger on that, I can operate the fan. And I'm just going to hold this piece of sandpaper in here just so it touches the commutator. I got to get my big fat finger in there, so you're going to have to pardon me. And you notice one thing, it's turning away from me, okay? So I don't want to have it turn toward me. I'll get caught on something. So I'm just going to stick my finger in here with that sandpaper. Rub it around a little bit. Oh man, I can see copper now. I flip the sandpaper around. I don't know if you can see the difference. That is getting, let's see, whoop. I'm trying to do this backwards and upside down, so bear with me. There we go, there we go. As you can see, a lot more copper showing in there now. So I think my idea is working. Let me give it a little bit more here. Whoop. Don't let it suck your finger in. Whoop. Or the sandpaper. I can tell the little copper color on the end of this sandpaper tells me I'm getting down to the copper. And I can see, looks pretty clean. Looks, it's getting there anyway. Nothing else. Getting there. I've already used up all 4 edges. I'm going to fold this in half and do some more. Well, that looks pretty good. I think that's going to make contact for a number of years. It's not perfect. It's got a lot of little ruts in it and all. But it looks a heck of a lot better. Okay, I think I'm done. I think it's ready to put back in the car. What do you think? Looks like copper now anyway. Feels pretty good. Doesn't roll that much smoother, but I think before I go, we got a bearing right up here on top, and somewhere there's another bearing in here. Maybe underneath that fan, not sure. Somewhere there's another bearing in there. But I think what I'll do is I'll just put a couple drops of oil in there while I got it out, and I think that'll be it. Put it back together and see what happens. Okay, so I used a little bit of this hair clipper oil and put a little bit up on the bearing up here at the top, and I couldn't really get anything down on the lower bearing, but you know, I just feel better having a little oil in there. One thing I didn't show, I did a little cleanup on the squirrel cage fan blades here, the fins on the fan. Basically, I just took a little bit of warm water and put it in a pail, about 1.5 inches of water, and I just let it sit in there. Then I used a toothbrush and just got in here and just cleaned these up a little bit. If you're gonna, that's not, I didn't videotape it because it's really not pertinent to repairing the fan. But if you do decide while you got your fan apart, be careful that you don't knock off. And I don't know if you can see it right there. There's a little balance weight. You see it right there. There's a little balance weight. Be careful you don't knock those off, otherwise your fan's going to vibrate. Okay, so now it's time to put the assembly back together, which is just a matter of sliding it down into the housing. It only fits one way, so you really can't go wrong. And I'm going to put this torque screw back in. And time to go back out and put it back in the car and see what happens. So here we go. Tighten this up. Let's go out to the car. Okay, well, I'm back inside. I installed the fan, and I was very disappointed that it did not function properly. It ran for a few seconds and then it slowed down, and eventually it stopped. I decided to take it out and take another closer look at it, and at this point I was pretty much dead in the water regardless of what I did. So I decided to take one more look at one other thing, and I decided to look at the brushes. Now the brushes are under a little rubber cap, okay, and that cap has a notch on it. Let me see if I can show you that. Okay, so you put to get the brush out, or to get the rubber cover out, you stick it in here and you bring it up and over. Yeah. Stick it in like so, and you want it up and over the top of the brush right here. It's got like these little legs. It's much harder to do with the clamp on here. But now that's just a cover. Really does nothing to the brush itself. There's this little rubber cap, and if you lift it up and over from here, just get underneath it and push it that way, it'll come out. Okay, now what I did is the brush's idea reminded me of an issue that I recently had with a power saw, and it turned out that the brushes were not moving freely, and because they weren't moving freely, they weren't making good contact. So I took a little WD here and shot it down inside like that, and used my little screwdriver here, got in underneath the brush and just like moved it up and down a few times just to make sure it was moving freely. And when I put this thing back together, and before I decided to check it before I went out to the car, because the last time I installed the whole thing into the car and tried it using the car's power. Oh, I had this backwards, no wonder it's not going. Tried using the car's power to run the fan, and I was really disappointed that it did not go as expected. There we go. Okay, so before I bring it back out to the car, I have my car charger here, my battery charger, and I took, wait a minute here, I'll show it to you. There we go, the battery charger with a couple of things, and I put a couple of nails on there for contacts. All right, and I'm just going to put this on the 2 amp setting and just touch those 2 contacts. Whoa! Wow! That sucker's working now, baby. I think I fixed it. Now I'm a happy camper. Get all these clamps out of here. All right, I'm gonna go put this back in the car, and I think I'm gonna be happy with the results. So, one more time, out to the car, and if this doesn't do it, then I think I'm gonna quit and buy a new fan. But, seeing the way it worked. All right, here's what it was doing. The fan, actually, I was very pleased at first when I put the power on. The fan worked, but it didn't sound right. It sounded really logy, and it was bogging down. And eventually, it just come to a stop. After about a minute or so, it would just come to a stop, complete stop. So there's something wrong. At that point, with nothing else to lose, I decided, what the heck, I'm going to mess with the brushes, and son of a gun, I think I fixed the problem. So let's go stick it in the car and we'll find out. All right, well, it turns out that the fix did work fine. It was the brushes all along. All I had to do is lubricate them and get them moving in the little brush guide there, and that took care of the problem. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you find it useful, please let me know in the comments section, and be sure to like and share the video, and thanks for tuning in. We'll see you later. I hope you even enjoyed my terrible dubbing here. Bye.